Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Monday evening. Dadman Walking 55 here. And our recent Monday nights have been what else but March Madness, the NCAA men's college basketball tournament. We've been through 2 full weekends of the tournament. And, you know, I will say this year is a good uh, reason for the description March Madness. Uh, and to go further into that is none other than the great sidekick here. I got the great Woopah Troopah. How are you, Woopah?
Hey, who are you calling a sidekick?
Uh, 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 the number two man that carries a lot of weight around here. I'm just kidding. Woopah, how are you, my buddy? How are you
Doing
tonight?
good. How are you today?
I, I'm well. I'm better than I started off today. So had some
Hey,
issues in
that's
the
always
morning, but
positive.
yeah, got better as the day went on. So looking back at it, so just a lot of crazy, a lot of something didn't quite set with me yesterday, so or this morning. So the day goes on, you get better, you start laughing, and you get better out of it. So, but how's your day been?
Well, I'm off work, so that's good.
That is always an awesome thing. Always an awesome thing. So, but yeah, um, yeah. So, as I introduced it, is this the reason being the reason for March Madness? What is your assessment of this tournament? Just at least a brief cursory glance. We'll get more into it later. But
Yeah, I think it's been pretty crazy. I mean, I'll say two teams made it to the Final Four. I didn't even predict would win a single game. Uh, I'll also say those two teams, I'm kind of shocked. You watch some of the games, you're like, how the hell did they win that one? Some of them are a little bit less. I did predict one of the Final Four members correctly, so I've got that at least. But you know,
yes, and we'll look at that coming up. Yeah,
but
and I tell you, I was real close to not picking that one. I know I was like, but I had anyway. But we won't reveal it now. We'll look at it in a bit.
yeah,
But yeah, it's been an interesting 2 weeks to get to this point. Um, so we'll look at tonight. We will look at the Sweet 16 and the results from it. We'll look at the results from the Elite Eight, which gives us the Final Four, each of the regional winners that will advance into the games on Saturday, and the winners of each game go to play each other for the national championship next Monday. Um, Again, when you start to look at these brackets, when you start to look at the teams, you're going to scratch your head, and there's usually a lot of it's not your normal heavy-handed, heavy-seated tournament for sure this year.
oh yeah,
But
for sure. And we won't get into it yet, but three of these four teams have never been to the Final Four before, and I believe one of them never won a game before in the tournament.
wow, that is very possible. That is very possible. When you look at these teams, it's just we got one that's a true Cinderella though too. I don't, but you know what? I consider a couple of them Cinderellas. Because they really shouldn't be there from the conferences that they're from. But hey, we'll that's everybody's opinion. Everybody has an opinion with it, and we'll see what the results show. So, without that, let me just look here. We got a few people in the chat hanging out with us. Input latency came by last. No, that's kind of the opposite psychology of saying last. But it says, hi, be sleeping when this goes live. Take it easy, dudes. God bless. Well, thank you for coming by and leaving a like and saying hi to us. So, and Castle comes in saying not last also. Whitson, Maddie's daddy, you'll never be last. Maddie's daddy is lurking. Thank you for being here, Steve. Good to see you. Good to see all of y'all here that are with us tonight. Well, the next to last weekend. Let's see. The next was it the weekend? Yes, the next to the last week of college basketball games, and really there's only two more games in the men's NCAA tournament. So you know what was kind of funny also, Woopah? Um, this last weekend they had the Division II national championship.
Oh, who was in that?
It was some team out of West Virginia that I do not know who they were, but the other was Nova Southeastern. Well, Nova Southeastern was one that my oldest kid was looking at, had gotten offers to go to school down there in South Florida, but of course chose to stay home, which was a lot cheaper, did us a lot better, and sure as heck, we worried about hurricanes and bringing our home back from hurricanes. Oh no, 2020 hit. Who knows what that would have been like? So, um, all the more for staying home,
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we got people with us now. We're about 10 minutes in. Woopah. Uh, Before we start looking at the wonderful graphics you made from last week, any other thoughts, or shall we just jump into it?
I'm ready to get into it if you are.
All right. Well, here's Woopah, Troopah, Monday Madness with Dadman, Woopah, Troopah. So, make sure if you're watching us on the Twitch side, make sure you follow us over there, and on this the YouTube side, make sure you hit like and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get the word out. Share with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't. We're at 188 subscribers. Only 12 more for 200. Yay! Can you believe that? I mean, that's just amazing. It would just seem like I was at 150 yesterday, but hey. But I will say it's due to you great viewers, you great people watching, coming in, and great guests like Woopah Troopah that come in and help me out, and we have fun together. So, all right, with all those announcements, Woopah, let's start. Let's get into the basketball.
All right, so we've got the first part of the bracket here, the South, that definitely didn't go how we expected. Oh, I just remembered something. Hold on.
Nope. No, I don't think anybody could have gotten close to this. Nobody would have gotten the champion out of the East, out of the South, much less to get the semifinalists in the region, right?
Yeah, I think Creighton wasn't too surprising to make it here, especially going up against Princeton. But San Diego State taking care of Alabama. I figured Alabama had an easy road, and San Diego State, didn't seem like a great team going into this, but here they are. Mm-hmm. Now as the finalists. Now, did you get to see any of the San Diego State and Creighton game?
I didn't get to see any of that game. I saw San Diego State play Alabama, though, and they went toe-to-toe. What got me was the physicality, the fact that they were able to play physical with Alabama and, really took it to an SEC team. It was quite interesting to see how, that's the first thing I thought. I didn't think that they would stand up to Alabama's athleticism and physicality, but they won it in the end by not a bad margin, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was surprisingly solidly. It was a surprisingly solid lead for people. San Diego State was heavy underdogs in that one for sure. But I watched a bit of the end of that San Diego State Creighton game. It was very interesting and very controversial. There was a foul called on. Well, first, San Diego just inbounded the ball, and they were up by 2 and inbounded the ball and just totally airmailed the pass. And a Creighton guy got it, had an easy layup. He was right. He picked it. They passed it basically to him right under the bucket.
Jeez.
San Diego did. So it was all tied up. Then there was a shot from San Diego, and which is always, I guess this is where you get into the technicalities, which can be frustrating. Is There's a San Diego State player went for a laid up, shot it, and missed. They called a shooting foul. It was like it's the interesting argument of was it a foul? Yeah, it was definitely a foul. He had his hand on his side. The defender had a hand on his side. But it's the kind of thing that's like, well, were you really calling that the entire game? Kind of similar to the Super Bowl where it's like, well, that was a pass interference, but that's been happening all game and you didn't call it until now. The kind of thing. Yeah, the consistency is a little bit not ideal, but San Diego State went there, got one of their 2 free throws, and that ended up being the game for them.
That is a hard thing for an official to do. I mean, like you said, everybody wants consistency at a minimum, and I think many times the officials struggle in that regard. Either you get tired of the game because it's down at the end. To just you can feel the intensity. You got to block it out though. I just my thing though is there's 60 minutes or 40 minutes in a game. A foul's a foul at any time. But to your point is, are you calling that foul throughout the game? Is it being consistent? I think that there's a natural inconsistency in a lot of officiating. But I also think when we were calling the games that I worked this year, some of the officials I talked about, one of them was talking about that if the contact did not impede the player going to the basket or did not affect the play, just kind of let it go. And I kind of am more in that school because if you called every time somebody touched somebody, you wouldn't get a game going. It would be stopping all the time with everything fouling and everybody fouling out. But I can see the frustration people have with that call at that time. But then again, there's still 40 minutes in the game. A foul at the 39:54 mark is still a foul as it was at tip off. And did you actually see the play?
Yeah, I saw the play. It was at the first glance you looked at it and thought, well, that's not even close to a foul. But when you looked at it, it's kind of like, well, he does, he's got his hand. The defender has the hand on the shooter's side. And, it's kind of how it is. You don't know how much pressure he's applying there. He could just be like a little bit and it's not much, or he could be, really shoving him. You don't know. So It was a foul, but I don't know how much. It's hard to know how much it was, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. I was trying to see something real quick. It's I tell you that can be a hard call sometimes with some of those calls down at the end like that. But like you said, you want consistency from the officials. That's what you really want at the end of the day. But yeah, I don't know. I can see it both ways. I can understand the frustration for both teams. It's a sorry way to lose a game, coming down to a foul at the end. But I would think though your best bet is if just a hand check is you need more than a hand check at the end of the game, and it's a shame that you come down losing a game to that. So let me say hello to Jeremy 5, Russia approved. Hey, Jeremy.
Hello.
Good to see you again. And here's Brian. I am good to see you, Brian. I'm okay with calling it or a no call. Just need to make the same call consistently either way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know what? Here's another thing you think about too. And I'll be honest. We have the angles, we have the video, we have the replays, but I tell you, there is something different when you're standing there in the lane much closer watching it that I think that you miss from the sidelines or from the video, even the video. I mean, I remember one call this year that I had to make. Guy coming right down the lane. Everybody on the sideline, all these parents and fans were like, what? At the same time. But I'm like sitting there right up the lane. Nobody on that side could see it because players were shielding it. But I could see the kid put his hand on the kid's arm as he was going up. And I think maybe it's possible in this case that official saw more contact than what we can tell either from the replay or they could tell from the sideline. So, but again, what to Brian's
Yeah,
point is just be consistent.
yeah. Some officiating, I think, suffers from the inability to check replays too. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because you can see something that, yeah, from an angle. There's been plenty of times, where you're like, oh, and this is football, but football still makes plenty of mistakes. But football, you'll see something like, what do you mean that was clearly a drop? And then you look at the replay from a different angle, and you're like, oh, okay. With a lot of basketball stuff, if the refs have the wrong angle, it's like, well, he's only seeing it from that angle. He can make the call, and then later on, maybe you see a replay that says, oh, maybe I made the wrong call, but you can't, there's not much of that available that you can kind of reverse it. You have to just trust your gut on what you saw right in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, I turned the comments back on the Twitch side. Thank you for letting me know about that, Brian. Well, so yeah, but it's always sad that a game like that comes down to this, to play like that. But you know what? What this was interesting with this bracket was that our Cinderella Princeton Tigers finally got beat. We thought maybe a 15 seed could make the Final Four, but I actually figured if they beat Creighton, they'd lose to Alabama. But
yeah, no, I mean, I think we all figured no matter what happens, they'll lose to Alabama. Then once Alabama went down, you're like, oh, maybe they can have it. But Creighton handled business. So there you go.
All righty. All right, so that's our South review with San Diego State, the surprise out of the South. We both had taken Alabama, correct?
Yep, we predicted these all exactly the same. Well, in the South, at least.
Okay, well, we'll recap that as we go along. All right, though. Well, that takes us to the South. Any other comments? All right, well, we'll go to the East. No. It's okay. You're good. Oh my gosh, the East was probably the best of, I think, one of the better of the regional semifinals and finals. Mm-hmm. I mean, because at least I don't have to sing Rocky Top.
That's true. You got lucky there.
But I tell you, I know the people up there are not happy the way they got beat by the Cinderella team, and they're supposed to be a lot better, but you still can't tell how bad this team was affected, though, losing their point guard before the SEC tournament. They with a point guard by committee and everything. It makes things hard when you get to this level when everybody's got the best players. Tennessee again in the mid-50s, and that's not a good Tennessee offensive output. Florida Atlantic knocks them off, and I think I said that last week was that Tennessee I thought was a dark horse in terms of they could either go all the way or they could flop. Well, it flopped. They definitely the Vols really flopped here. So, but hey, I'll still take if the Tennessee Volunteer fans are out there don't like their basketball coach. I'll take him in Gainesville. Give me Rick Barnes any day. So then the Owls take care of Tennessee, and not that kind of an easy, not pretty easy game. But then we get to the next game in the bracket. Kansas State, Michigan State. I thought this was a fascinating game. This is a game I did watch more of the second half. Goes to overtime. I think Michigan State really fought to keep it close and to get overtime because I thought there was a time when Kansas State was going to just pull away from Michigan State late.
Yeah.
But the Sparty kept coming back.
It was a very good back and forth game. Kansas State has played a lot of close games. They haven't had a lot of breathing room in most of their matchups.
No. It was kind of like I said. It was what was interesting with this game is Michigan State I think was close, then they pulled ahead, and then Kansas State went on a run, And you'd think that Kansas State was about to put Sparty away, but just got physical, got some rebounds or turnovers, and it was kind of a sad way the game ended with the Michigan State not even getting a shot off. Sloppily turned the ball over that went in, and Kansas State got a basket that made a 5-point difference. It was a really good game. It's a shame either one have to lose.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you were paying attention, if you saw the highlight that was going around, the play by Marquise Noel, that was pretty awesome. Fake talking to his coach like he's drawing up a play, and then Keontae Johnson sneaks around. Noel throws up an alley-oop, and there you go. that was awesome.
I'm still cringing that Keontae Johnson left Gainesville. I mean, he had back in 2021, I think, or 2020. I don't remember which season. He when playing with the Gators, he collapsed on the court. In a game against FSU, and then I didn't know what happened to him. I thought he left basketball, but then I don't understand how, whatever. But apparently he got cleared to play again and ended up Kansas State, and I learned about that recently. And so every time you say Keontae Johnson, I'm like, man, another what could have been with the Gators.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about them today. We're going to talk about some Florida teams. We got one Florida team here to talk about. The Florida Atlantic Owls, a team that nobody, I mean, really, did anybody really, who could have had this in a bracket? Unless somebody did it by computer.
They said something like 30 people had Florida Atlantic in a bracket, and I'm imagine going this far, and I imagine there are probably 30 people who go to the school.
It's actually not a small school. Okay. And what's crazy is they're from Conference USA.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's something. We've got a Conference USA team. And this is not the Conference USA team that had Cincinnati and teams like that years ago. We're talking about North Texas, UAB, Middle Tennessee, Charlotte, Western Kentucky.
Hey,
UTEP.
2 of those teams are in the NIT Final Four. So there's that at least.
Oh, really? Which ones?
North Texas and UAB are both in the Final Four.
Oh, my gosh. That's going to be some matchup. Are they playing in Las Vegas this year?
I think they're playing in Charlotte.
Yeah, because it's
New Orleans. New Orleans.
It's not New York City, though.
No, I think it's in New Orleans. I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing this on the bracket before, but I forget exactly where now.
Yeah. I was going to look at something real quick statistically at Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic, why if you do 200 for Florida residents, $203 a credit hour, $5,800 a year. Non-Florida residents, $720 a year. Let's see. I just was trying to get so I was just trying to get like some demographic information just to kind of it's in Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh,
let's see.
Heard that place before.
Yeah, Boca Raton, and it's undergraduate enrollment from 2022-2023 edition of Best Colleges is roughly 25,000 students, just under 25,000 students. So it's not a small school, but I will tell you the history of a school like Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic is like UNF, Florida International, a lot of these other state of Florida public universities. They're just now getting into Division I sports in the last 10 to 15 years. So for this, I remember many years ago, Jacksonville University, UNF was in the Trans-American Athletic Conference, and Florida Atlantic was in that. Well, you see, FAU keeps moving up. Their school grows, and obviously the sports teams grow, and that's how these conferences. Now they're in the Conference USA, which is now going to get respect to the conference. So Um,
Mm-hmm.
so let me do this real quick. Let's see. Actually, hold on. I'm actually multitasking, Luke, but that's kind of interesting. I got to come back to
Oh, first time. You can teach an old dog new tricks after all.
It's always hard. It's always hard. I haven't boomered it tonight yet. So, well, I did boomer it. I didn't put the chat on the Twitch side. So, Florida Atlantic Owls. Who? The irony. Yeah. Who? Uh, when I talked about those tuition rates, shoot, I'm taking out loans on 388 per credit hour now. Oh man, if that's grad school or private school, some of the nonprofit schools are really expensive too.
Oh yeah.
You're almost there, Castle. You're almost there. He liked the he liked that one. And Oi, back to you, Studying a Brave. Hey, thanks for coming in.
Hello.
Yeah, good to see you tonight. So, but that's a little bit. This is one of those teams that really surprised you. Who would have ever thought of Conference USA when they didn't have Cincinnati or Houston in it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
teams like that teams that with some pedigree or some history. When you look at the Conference USA, like you said, the two teams with North Texas and UAB are in the Final Four. By the way, who are the other two teams in the NIT final?
Just look this up before the stream.
Yeah.
Wisconsin. So there's Big Ten
Wow.
something this year.
Hey.
And Utah Valley.
Whoa. Let's go Utah Valley. Hey.
I said they're interesting enough because I don't know if you know how the NIT works, but they don't have like I guess it still sort of counts as 1 through 8 on each of their sections, but number wise, they just say 1 through 4. They give the top 4 teams on each section a seed number, and everyone else, I guess, is I don't know if they're randomly distributed or not. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then everyone else. So talking about interesting seedings is that even with that, North Texas was a 3, Wisconsin was a 3, and UAB was a 4. But Utah Valley was one of those kind of random teams. I think just one of the regular season champions that didn't win the tournament, their conference tournament, so they didn't qualify.
Mm-hmm.
And now here they are in the Final Four. Let me look.
Hey, a championship's a championship. Yeah, but God, that's even amazing. I mean, Wisconsin is the only school out of any big conference, Big East, Atlantic Coast, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, Pac-12. Wow, that is crazy. So, and I hate Wisconsin, their sports programs. Wow, that's
Wisconsin's.
Those are some high numbers, Castle. Wow.
Wisconsin's really good at making NFL running backs who usually never pan out.
Yep, exactly. Or they do something for about 2 years, then they're gone. So
yeah.
So FAU is in Boca Raton, Florida. I mean, they beat. I didn't mean to skip over. Let's talk about I may have jumped ahead a little bit, but I got excited about a good Florida team. But the game with Kansas State, I saw some of it, and it was really back and forth. And I know FAU built a lead at one point, and then Kansas State would fight back. But what amazed me was looking at FAU physically. They may be Conference USA, but they look like they were they had the physicality to run with the larger teams, the bigger conference schools.
Yeah, no, they're definitely a bigger school. I think they have one guy who's 7 foot on their roster. And they doubled up Kansas State in rebounds. So that's a pretty, anytime you're going to double the amount of rebounds that other teams has, you usually have a good chance of winning. So that's pretty good.
Kill them on the glass. Because look at the box score real quick. I want to look at the box score. 44 to 20, doubled. Yep, 44 to 22, and 14 offensive rebounds. What that means, folks, is that's a lot of second chance points, a lot of easy putback baskets. When you out rebound on the offensive side, you're scoring a lot more. Because Kansas State only had 5 offensive rebounds. So, man, that is domination.
Oh yeah, and
I think
that helps too when you're talking about just even because look at this game, close game. FAU had pretty much all close games, and when you're getting those offensive rebounds, at the very least,
But you
it
said it.
helps.
Yep.
At the very least, it helps you keep possession and kill time. Once you shoot it up, and then get the rebound, resets the shot clock. You can kind of go back to killing off some time, trying to get a play together, even if you don't end up scoring.
Yep. Well, you were right. They have a 7'1" player, a sophomore from Nalchik, Russia, Vladislav Golden. Or Golden.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing because I was looking at a map of where all the teams' players came from, and FAU and San Diego State were both, and UConn to an extent, were both kind of what you expected. And then you're just looking up foreign players, and there's just one player from Russia. You're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is out of nowhere.
Get this, though. He only averaged in the season 21 minutes a game. I would be working that mother. See, that's where I disagree with modern college basketball coaches, because my schools is like, they get hot, pull them out. They get hot, pull them back. I'm like, bullshit. Ride the friggin' horse if they're hot. I mean, this guy's 7'1". He averages 21 minutes in a game during the season, 10 points a game, only 6 rebounds a game. But listen to that. Kansas State, 29 minutes, 14 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks. Tennessee, he only had 3 points, but he had 7 rebounds. It's just, I don't know. Fairleigh Dickinson, 8.6 rebounds. So when you have a guy that tall, it's just, you ride him. But apparently, maybe the coach knows, maybe he's kind of not, deceptively good, but he apparently balled out against Kansas State. I mean, had a double-double and, was part of that effort. Played 29 of 40 minutes. So that's going to be an interesting matchup with San Diego State. But it's they played 9 players to Kansas State, but Kansas State, they were both about at the same in 3-point lines. FAU hit 9, Kansas State hit 10. They were both about 47 to 48% shooting. Kansas State did miss, was only 12 of 18 from the free throw line.
Ooh, that's rough.
67%, and FAU was 82% of 18 for 22.
That makes the difference right there.
Could be. I don't know. A lot taller, though. I don't know how tall.
Yeah, taller.
I don't know how tall what's his name was, but it really was a good game. FAU took a lead. Kansas State kept coming back, and then finally at the end, FAU outlasted them to continue this Cinderella story, a 9th seed, moving into the Final Four from the East region.
Mm-hmm. No, it's pretty. I know recently you had an 11th seed go in. But usually that's not the case. It's pretty. You're at least looking at usually at 6 or above. There's exceptions, but usually that's what you see. So seeing a 9th seed here is pretty wild. Especially FAU is the one team I was saying they hadn't won a tournament game at all until this year. Now here they are in the Final Four.
Well, I tell you, the physicality is what amazed me. When I looked at them and saw them the first time against Tennessee, they were not what I expected to see. I expected like a team like we've talked about, the Atlantic Sun tournament, those type of players. These guys were big and muscular. They were all solid. This looked like a bigger conference team than anything. They don't weigh rebounds on a player that tall normally. Yeah, rebounds are an underappreciated stat too. I mean, look at Dennis Rodman too. No points and 40 rebounds.
I think it's interesting how you get some of the I guess it's the positives and the negatives of modern day basketball. The positives being you don't get a lot of. There was the small era in the NBA where it's like, hey, this guy's tall, put him out there and he'll get rebounds. Now, if I know this a lot from Baylor. We had one of our tallest guys, 6'10". He got a lot of starts, but he just didn't play a lot of minutes because even though he's tall, he didn't really have the skill to be a starting player. So we played a lot of small ball out of necessity, just because, hey, even though we don't have that big guy, it's kind of, we're a better team when we don't have that big guy. You can't just put a tall guy out there if he's not skilled. But so I guess it's kind of both of it. It's the concept of you can't just put the tall guy out there if he doesn't have the skill. And also if you get those little guys who can kind of bully, look at Charles Barkley. He's a big guy down there. He was not a big guy in one way, not tall. Yeah. But, you get a 6'6" guy who has the fire and the talent down low and bullies people. That can be more effective than the 6'10" guy who's, not necessarily the best fundamentals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just this guy though looks solid though. I mean, it's crazy though. But you're right. Yeah, I mean, I've seen players 6'11", 7-footers that have rode the bench most of the time, and when you see them get out there, there's reasons why they ride the bench. But I don't know. It just seemed like, and maybe not having seen it and looking at the stats, this may have been one of those games where when he got out there, he got hot. So because he was playing well, the coach finally, left him in. So because you're right. Sometimes people play better, other times not. Because when you looked at other games, he didn't quite produce like that. But hey, I don't know. I still love the size. Just give me somebody that tall, and I like to put them. So, yeah. And Brian says you don't see a lot of approaching 7-foot tall up guys. They're really athletic running back playing two-way. Knees are always a concern. Well, like we talked about Yao Ming,
Oh yeah,
one with his knees that really cut short his career.
I always feel bad because he was one of my favorite players. I remember him and Tracy McGrady on the same team. That was always a lot of fun. And Yao had he was a big guy who he learned a lot of how to play physical in the NBA, but he, when he was training in China, he learned a lot of that finesse. So you had a 7'6" guy who could, pivot around you. It was pretty fun. But it is tough though. Wear and tear can be really rough on you unless you're an absolute monster of a man, and like Shaq is. He was big every way. He was thick. He was tall. There's no defeating that guy.
No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, those are good concerns. That's a good point there too. Shaq was just got up down the court. I think, Abdul-Jabbar was just classic for getting up and down the court too. I think the problem is sometimes you get spoiled with the ones that can do it. Then you sort of expect everybody else to do it, whether they really can or not. But yeah, the physical attributes, do make a difference there. All right. Thanks keep lurking, Castle. I appreciate it. Hey, you're getting close to the end. You'll get that homework done. So, all right. Well, we got any more on this game? We kicked it pretty good.
Yeah, this was definitely kind of one of the crazy. Well, I guess I don't know. It was one of the more exciting sides, I guess, at the very least. There's I'd say it was one of the more crazier ones, but there's so many crazy ones. I don't know which one's more crazy or not.
Oh man. Well, hey. Well, let's move on. So we've got 2 down. We got San Diego State and FAU, and then in the Midwest we have another Florida team. Very unexpected from the ACC. If you thought ACC, you would definitely not think this team, but it's the Miami Hurricanes. Move on. They dismissed Houston by in a good margin. Convincing going away.
They had control of that game for most of it.
That's what I saw, and I saw the warning signs early with Houston in the first 2 rounds when they struggled.
Yeah, it was tough. Houston's always a little confusing, at least for now. I think next year they'll be in the Big 12, but they are, you don't know how good they are, if this is the competition they played. And they were playing, 2 of their best players had injuries. So it was hard to say, would they kind of keep it up or would they be healthy for the Sweet 16? Because they started the tournament injured. And I'm not sure if they did or not, but the score seems to suggest that they didn't.
Yeah. And then Xavier, Texas. This was a game that I think we neither one of us. I don't know. But I don't think either one of us liked Xavier in this one. But I thought it'd be closer than 12 points. But Texas moves on.
Yeah. And then we had the Elite Eight matchup. This was a lot closer than it looks. This was actually tied going into the final minute. This is always how all the fouling and craziness at the end of games can make a score look different. But this was, I believe, 79-79 going into the final minute of the game.
Wow. Well, because it ended up 88-81, and in the second half, first half, Texas had a 45-37 lead at the half. Miami outscores Texas 51-36 by 15 points in the second half, which, to your point, is a lot of free throws in that last minute apparently helped boost the score and make the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how it goes. You're always trying to foul, hope that something happens, or a lot of times the team that's down, maybe you make a little bit more risky play than usual and doesn't end up working out.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was interesting. We're looking at, I guess we don't know yet for sure, but already two Big 12 teams got to the Elite Eight, and both of them lost. I believe there was 3 SEC teams, and so far 2 of them lost in the Sweet 16. This is just interesting because those were kind of the conferences here. Yet the ACC, they had, I think, 5 or maybe 6 people that made the tournament, and Miami was the only one who actually made it this far. And they ended up going farther. They're going dancing in the Final Four. But you know what I thought was interesting about this? This is going off what I mentioned a little bit earlier. They had the hometown of each player on these rosters for the Final Four teams, and you had San Diego State mostly made sense, and mostly around California, a few elsewhere, but mostly around California. FAU was pretty much all Florida and the Gulf area except for the one Russian guy. Miami had I want to say 90% of their guys from the New England area or the Northwest and the Northeast. Sorry. I thought that was kind of funny. They had 0 players on their team that were born in Florida.
Yep.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
That bucks the trend. Usually it's closer to home, especially with all the sports in Florida. It's the local high schools and junior colleges and stuff. But hey.
Yeah, well, especially because, not that Miami's a nobody, but they're not exactly a basketball powerhouse. You might expect it from Kentucky that, they're just getting the best guys available, or with another team that we'll talk about later that made the Final Four. Though they've got a rich history. You expect them to get it from everywhere, but Miami, you don't expect them to be getting, not just a lot of people from away from home, but no people from home. You'd think. I don't know.
That is so opposite of the way the culture is down here, for college football. College football down here is big about those, especially Miami. When Miami was dominated, nobody, Florida State, Georgia, anybody could go get the best players out of Miami. It was locked down, nailed tight. And there was a pride. The coaches worked together. They had all their networks. But for even basketball, though, you still would think that there'd be some semblance of stay at home for the better athletes, but that is strange. One other thing that I've observed with this, looking at the box score with the game against Texas,
What's that?
Miami played 9 players. They had 4 on the bench, but their starters, of the 5 starters, the player was Omie, a forward that played 28 minutes, and he was the starter with the least amount of minutes. And he had 4 fouls,
Oh,
the bench players had 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, and 13 minutes.
Wow.
So Larinaga, I remember him at George Mason. He looks like to be one of those coaches that does not expand the bench. and maybe he plays it at times, but when it play and that's true with postseason stuff like this, you really want your best out there. So some coaches shorten the bench and stuff, but he really did it more noticeably because Texas played 3 players off the bench anywhere from 10 to 19, 10 to 28 minutes. So there was more variety there. Another thing that was interesting, this game was a game of great shooting. Miami was 59.2%, 29 of 49, while Texas was 50%, 30 of 60. Texas hit 10 of 25 3 points, and yet this game was so close. However, the difference was at the free throw line. Miami was 28 of 32, 87.5%, whereas Texas was 11 of 15, 73% from the line. Go to say that because Texas hit 10 3-pointers, so you think, why are they not further ahead? It's because of the difference at the free throw line, because Miami only took 8 3-point attempts and made 2 of them.
Oh, wow.
So this is not a Miami team that is a big outside shooting team, which is something I got to consider and make my pick against our next regional winner, because you better shoot. And the rebounding was even in this game. Texas had way more fouls than Miami, but I still that kind of 3-point shooting goes back to the Dean Smith days, and I don't know if you're only taking 8 attempts. What happens when you play a team that runs and guns a little bit more up tempos and stuff? You better be shooting 60%. But how often does that happen?
Yeah, especially when you get into teams that are better at defense. I don't think, from what I remember from Big 12 matchups, Texas wasn't really the defensive team, and I think you can kind of see in the scores here, even Xavier, and not that keeping them to 71 isn't bad, but it's not that it's about average, I'd say, and then allowing 80, even if a lot of those points at the end were foul points, still allowing 80 points. They were an offensive team, not a defensive team.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm taking a little distraction. Join Woopah Troopah me for XFL football on Friday night, because the best teams in the league are playing right now. It's the DC Defenders and the Arlington. The Houston Roughnecks are playing right now, and it's 8-3 in the second quarter. And oh my God, the Houston uniforms! Oh my, you got to see it. It's a 2-tone helmet. It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like blue on one side, and the upper left. It's blue on one side. The other, take one side of the helmet is blue with their logo. The other side of the helmet is half white, half red, top and bottom.
That's weird.
It is a really funky helmet.
That reminds me of the.
So join us Friday night for that talk too.
That reminds me of the what they call it? Oh, the Jaguars' old helmet, the melted Rolo helmet.
Oh yeah, the black.
That's what they always called it.
And gold. Yep. That was crazy. That was so ugly. So
something.
Join us Friday for some football. But tonight's basketball. Hey, and if you got questions about basketball, feel free to drop them in the chat. We love talking basketball. But so we got the Miami, we got the U coming out of this bracket. Those are some notes and observations. Anything else, Woopah? Let's see. I want to get a moment.
Looking at a stunning comment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was a big upset,
Professor Xavier ran a football team. How'd the X-Men lose to Texas? Yes. Yes, exactly. Let's see. So the University of Miami. Let's see enrollment. Let's see. So we've got They're about 12,000, roughly from fall 21. They're Miami, University of Miami is a public school and a private school down in Miami. It's fall 21 enrollment was 12,000 undergrad students. So we've got a 25,000 FAU public Florida school, a 12,000 Florida private Florida school that are in the tournament against. Well, we'll see what we can see what the other school sizes are. But what is I think very observant out of it is not necessarily the largest schools in terms of attendance, but they're up there with the big boys. So must be the new Disney X-Men Hicks people. Yeah, they ran out of gas. They ran out of gas. All right, so we got any more? Or is that? Oh, we're gonna move to the west. That's cool. Let's move to the west. Let's not. We've kicked that last one to death too. I like it. This is what I love about pulling basketball games together apart, because with fewer games we can actually talk about more of these games in detail for stats and stuff. So, all right, Woopah, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take it. So starting off with this first game, Arkansas and Connecticut. UConn just kicked their butts. It wasn't particularly close. Actually, let me double check that because I know it wasn't close.
It wasn't close from the beginning, yeah.
I forget I'm trying to remember, was it a close at the beginning or if it was? No, it was a blowout from the start. So that was a easy win for Connecticut there. That Gonzaga UCLA game was very interesting because UCLA in the first half, they ended the first half with a double-digit lead, and it really just melted away. They kind of collapsed in the second half. What's his name? Drew Timme.
Yeah.
He had one heck of a game. I believe he set the record for most 20-point games in March Madness. So I guess because he's stuck around so long, played in so many tournaments, I think he has 11 games in the tournament where he scored 20 plus points. So that's pretty dang awesome.
Hey, let me say hello to Phantom Outsider. Welcome, Phantom. It says, you mean the Stunning Brave, you mean the Mutants? LOL, because they lost. They lost because none of them knew what anyone's pronouns were. Oh, my gosh. Hey. Well, Phantom, glad you're here with us tonight. Thank you. Oh, my gosh. We got 5 people in the chat. Make sure you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you hadn't. We're breaking down the last region, and then we're going to look at this week's games. So, all right. Sorry, Woopah, go ahead.
No problem. So that was just a really interesting game. UCLA actually absolutely collapsed during UCLA. I collapsed to the Bulldogs in that second half, and kind of got a surprise upset for both of us. But you picked them to go farther than I did.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because I thought UCLA would be after. When we lost all the 1 seeds, you would think one of the 2 seeds would make it, but I believe I think I saw something on ESPN that this is the first time they've not had a 3 seed.
So it was the first time that no 1 seed made it to the Elite 8. So no 1 seeds in the Elite 8. That was the first time ever.
Wow.
And I believe they said, I don't know if they said the first time or if it wasn't the first time, it was like the second or third time that it was so it was the first time that no seed that was 3 or higher made it in to the Final Four, and it was like the third time since they started doing polls in like the 19 I think it was 1960, first time they started doing preseason polls or something like that. First time ever that none of the top 10 teams, or not first time ever, the third time ever that none of the top 10 preseason teams made it to the Final Four, which is pretty interesting.
It is. See, we can make this stuff geeky, dirty, or whatever you want to call it, because you can really go crazy with these stats.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's not much to say about this bracket. UConn just clean house took.
UConn.
You called this too.
Oh yeah,
You
they
were
rolled
big
over
on UConn all
everyone.
the way. Yeah.
They beat they beat both the two West Coast Conference teams. And that was so their win in the second round against St. Mary's was their closest win. I put that in air brackets that you can't see. Uh, but because that was their closest win, they won by 15. So they've been blowing everyone out in this tournament so far.
Yeah, I was disappointed the Pigs didn't even show up, but I figured I'm not surprised that I knew Arkansas was either going to be really good or really bad because that's usually what happens to the SEC teams when they come in like this. And
Yeah,
they just ran
I
into
mean,
a much better team.
yeah. Hey, I think obviously not a great showing in the Sweet 16, but for how their season went and who they beat to get here, I think they'd call that a successful year.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, we've got the West done, Woopah. And we got 6 people with us now. Yay!
Woo!
Listen, y'all want nerd, y'all want geek. We can we can geek and nerd all this football and basketball stats that you want. So, hey, let me say hi to Bucky Corn over on the Twitch side. Blowing everyone's certainly interesting, but hey, if it works. Oh my gosh. Hey, we love it. We are 18 plus, but there you go, Bucky. Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for keeping us company over there on the Twitch side too. So, hey, make sure you follow over there if you haven't, and we're going to have some more fun and see where we go. So where we go next with this?
Well, we go to our update on predictions. So
that is wrong. You have done this wrong.
Well, what I do wrong?
I'm just kidding. Mine should be the bottom and yours should be the top. No, I'm just kidding.
I think you mean to say you did yours wrong. I did everything
there
right
you
here.
No.
But yeah, you can see. So I came into this week up by 2, and we pretty much, I think it's interesting that we almost had the same results, despite I think we had 5 of the 12 matchups we called differently. But even though that happened, we came out with pretty much the same record. I had 1 at more Sweet 16. We both, I think 3 each of us. So we picked, we had 2 Final Four teams the same and 2 different. And just from the Sweet 16 alone, we lost 3 of our 4. So we came into the Elite 8 already 0 for 3 each. But each of our others remainings did win. But so I take a 3 now with that 1. I'm taking a 3-point lead, and there's only 3 matches to go. So the best Dadman can do is tie. I've secured a victory.
Yay!
At least a moral victory here.
There you go. But hey, that's why we call it March Madness. That's what's the beauty of the tournament. It's just so unpredictable because we didn't really go out on a limb with a lot of our predictions. I think even my first round of the round of 64 was not very too many. I didn't call Princeton. I didn't go off the deep end with a lot of the upsets, but it's just like the big when you lose seeds 1 through 3 before the final, as early as the Elite 8, you're going to have some screwed up brackets and screwed up records because if you try to predict conservatively, you're going to go higher team seeds with them all losing the way they did. It was just you're going to have a bad record with it. So
I think it was interesting. It kind of shows, I guess, because we both did very well in the first round. For a bracket with so many early upsets, we both did pretty well. But you can just see how kind of unpredictable it got when you got farther in the bracket. We all collectively did a lot worse. So, kind of some of the first ones, we did a good job getting those, but the second ones didn't go so well. And kind of, I think some of it comes down to you pick the because it's not like we didn't pick any upsets. We both picked Charleston. I know you had Pitt going far. I know I had someone else going on a deep run. But just kind of hard to pick. We picked the wrong upsets, I guess.
Yeah.
Not that we didn't pick upsets. Sometimes you never know which one's going to be that Cinderella team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and the thing is, if you go too crazy with those upsets, you get screwed.
Yeah,
You. The problem is if you go too haywire with picking too many like 15 over twos and stuff like that, you're going to be out of any bracket or any type of respectable uh, prediction or any type of record like that. You know.
yeah. I mean, look at the 15 seeds. Only one of them actually made it. If you're used to about, and they won 2 games, but still, you got to figure out which one that's going to be. And it's always because I know we both talked about, neither of us picked Arizona or Virginia to go far, teams like that.
No.
But it's always like, well, which one's going to actually get the upset? And,
Well,
we just picked it a little too late.
Well, at least Vanderbilt, poor Vanderbilt, but they're still not even the NIT. But at least poor Virginia, we could agree on and kept us happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, Utah Valley's in the WAC. Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah,
I was just seeing a clip that popped up on ESPN with them in the NIT beating Cincinnati. Wow. So, but hey, folks, hey. That's March Madness. That's where we stand, 3 games apart. Woopah will more than likely get the win, and I will say that'll be cool for Woopah. So,
it happened in football. It happened in basketball. What can I say? I got the superior Pokemon knowledge here.
There you go. Use the force of the Pokemon or the Pokemon spirit. So where we so what we got now? We've you got a 3-game lead. So this week, let's set the tables for this week.
Yeah, so we've got some matchup previews since we're down. Before we didn't do this because we'd be here forever if we did this for every team.
This is nice. This is nice. Now, are these points for and against? Are these stats season stats or just tournament stats?
They're seasons. They include the tournament stats, I believe,
okay. but they're not tournament
overall.
Specific.
Yeah, right, it's overall season stats. So we got the South number 5 seed and the East number 9 seed. Definitely a matchup you don't usually see like that.
Yeah, not at all.
Excuse me. You got San Diego State. Their road to the Final Four here. They beat number 12 Charleston. That game was a lot closer. I mean, still looks pretty close, but that was tied up right at the end there. They kicked Furman's butt 75-52, beat Alabama 71-64, and then beat Creighton 57-56 like we talked about. They're much more of a defensive team from what I can tell, averaging 4 blocks a game and only 57.7 points allowed. Meanwhile, about 72 points for, which is a good but kind of low on the grand scheme of things. You can see Florida Atlantic has a similar gap, but they've got 66 points allowed, but 78 points for. Overall, the only other big difference is Florida Atlantic has the slight edge in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage, and they are a better rebounding team. And like I said, they're more offensive than defensive.
To me,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Their road to the Final Four, they had they beat Memphis in a controversial game by 1 point, 66-65. They beat Farley Dickinson 78-70, beat Tennessee 62-55, and then beat Kansas State 79-76. So overall, it was a close one.
See, I think these are two very, very similar teams. I mean, those are splitting hairs to point out those differences. Even though Florida Atlantic is looks like that they score a little bit more, they also give up more on the defensive side. San Diego State really looked like a defensive team, and the way they shut Alabama down was impressive. So
well, look at that.
This is a hard game to call, and I know we're going to show what we say. I know we're going to reveal our picks in a minute, but one thing I've noticed is and I think you point out that FAU's had kind of a hard road with some lower seed teams. 8 points over Fairleigh Dickinson was still a pretty good game into the second half. San Diego State, and a couple cakewalks in there. So
Yeah,
at least it's
it's
just
interesting to see because that's something I was thinking about. You have San Diego State took down Alabama. That's about the biggest win of the tournament that you can have, and certainly the biggest win between these two teams. But on the other end, you have FAU beating Tennessee and Kansas State. Those are definitely better than any non-Alabama teams. And I think you could argue, Memphis versus Creighton, maybe that's a little bit of a wash there. Both of
yeah.
those teams were very good. So, San Diego State has the best win out of these all, but FAU might have the next three best. So,
Well,
how do you view that?
I'm gonna hold off on what I want to say only because it will give away my pick, but I'll try to remember to say it when we pick. So
Only
okay,
thing I have to add is I think it'll be interesting. I guess it's not a steadfast rule because FAU's scored less than 70 twice in victories, but I think based on what you see with these kind of points for, points against, kind of tells you a little bit about the pace of play. I think if in the end it's going to be down to FAU scoring 70 points. I think if you get FAU scoring 70 points, then they're probably winning that game. And if they score less than 70, it's not a guarantee. FAU can still win with that, but I think it's going to be that, if they score 70, I think that's a guarantee that San Diego State didn't control the game like they did. But if they score less than that, maybe that's San Diego kind of controlling the pace of play.
yep, very well. All right, there you have it. There's the matchups, the stats, the numbers between San Diego State, the 5th seed from the South, against Florida Atlantic Owls, the 9th seed out of the East. There you go. All right. Now we come to the last matchup between Miami, the 5 seed from the Midwest, and UConn, the 4th seed from the West. So Miami ends up beating Drake in the first round, 63-56, in a tougher game than probably expected. But 5-12 matchups are usually tough these days. They roll over Indiana, the 4th seed in the region, 85-69. Then they have one of the upsets of the tournament by beating Houston, the number 1 seed, by 14 in a game that was really not close. And then they beat the number 2 seed also in a close game that got extended at the end by 7. UConn comes in having rolled over Iona, St. Mary's, Arkansas, and Gonzaga. Has not had a tough win in the entire tournament. We can see the stats as you go down. Points for about average. Miami gives up a few more points than Connecticut. Field goal percentages are roughly the same. Same with the 3-point percentage, the free throw shooting. UConn looks to be a little bit better on the boards, on the rebounding side. Steals and blocks, kind of negligible. So, Woopah, at least my thought coming in is, it would appear that UConn is on fire and rolling like a machine these days. But then again, I look at who they played: Iona, St. Mary's, Arkansas, and Gonzaga. Gonzaga's 3 seed. That's a good one that they won easily. But if I'm wondering if these wins by these margins could be a little deceptive when they play a team that like Miami that held Houston to 75 points. They were able to score nearly 90 against Houston and Texas, the 2 top seeds in the bracket, and they also handled Indiana 4th seed. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting just because when you look at these season stats, I think it's important. You don't just totally disregard them. You do have to think Miami was playing in the ACC that was. You can argue how good it was, but it was certainly a dogfight. A lot of teams were fighting for that kind of top seed in the conference. While Connecticut played in the Big East, which that's not a pushover. That's not a pushover division, but it's definitely not the ACC's quality, at least top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing I think is interesting is UConn played an upset in Arkansas and an upset in Gonzaga. Gonzaga is a 3 seed, not that they're bad or anything, but UCLA was kind of a team that people projected as a number 1 seed in the end. So UConn getting 2 upset plays there. Miami is the only team in the in the Final Four that they didn't have any upsets, and they were number 5 seed. They played number 12 Drake. That game was kind of scarily close, but then they played their highest projected possible seed out of that was playing number 4 Indiana. That's who they played. After that, their highest possible number 1 Houston, they played them, and then highest possible number 2 Texas, they played them. So while a lot of these other guys maybe caught a break or two with who they played, Miami's had to play the toughest from their bracket all the way through.
Let me say hello to B from O. Welcome in. We're detailing the last of the Final Four matchups, and we'll be getting into some picks in a few minutes. But glad you're here with us tonight, B from O. And everybody coming in late, or new, hit that like button, smash that like button, send it out that we're live, and subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you haven't. Follow us on Twitch. So, yeah, I'm kind of torn in this game because my head tells me that Miami really had to work hard to get here, but there's something with how easy UConn has made it, and it's hard to jump too quickly either way. Either that Miami has worked so hard that they've beaten better teams that they're better, and then UConn is just chalking up that they play bad competition. It's trying to not dismiss. You understand what I'm saying with that?
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see how it goes because Miami I think has played tougher competition, but at the same time, it's somewhat subjective.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about how did Houston really. We can talk about how were St. Mary's or Gonzaga really that good, but we can also talk about was Houston overrated as a 1 seed? Both. It's hard to compare. Besides just seeding numbers, and both of them played good seeds. I think it's be interesting to see both of these. I project this will probably be a high scoring game. I guess don't know for sure. Maybe one team, maybe UConn will dominate again, but you're looking at Miami scored 80 in 3 of their 4 games, and UConn scored 80 in 3 of their 4 games. So these are 2 offenses that are red hot right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Both of these guys are actually pretty high shooting wise. I didn't put rankings because I thought it was a little bit silly.
Yeah.
But both of these teams, I believe, were in the top 50 or around the top 50 or top 70 or so in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage, which is, there's 300. I think there's like 300 teams in Division I, which is pretty wild.
Wow. And there's like 100 and something in college football. That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez. 300 something. Well, it's like I said earlier, like FAU used to be in the Division IIs. University of North Florida, which is one of the other Florida public universities, was NAIA back in the 90s and early 2000s. And all the Florida schools have been moving up over the years into the upper levels of NCAA. So
I work with, she was a big, she played college basketball for Florida Gulf Coast University when they were still in Division II. So
yeah.
She's a big fan of them. But that was always fun to hear some stories about that.
Yeah, and that's what these Florida schools where you hear UCF was that way too for a long time. You got UCF that did that, FIU, FAU, all of them really, just that's what they did. It's kind of crazy because I look back at where I was, working like 20 years ago, and it's just. It's funny how times change, Like the school I went to was famous for a 1970 NCAA tournament appearance. Well, the school rode it into the ground to where they got irrelevant, and now they're playing in a dumpster fire conference. And, they've moved down while the local public university has gone up in stature and things like that. Let me say this. We got from the Twitch side, Scott's national sport is Woopah. Very similar to basketball, but everyone also has a shiv It's great fun.
Much fun
Okay.
indeed.
Yeah, and Phantom Outsider, it says, as much as I've always liked Timberwolf, I think Ultra Boy takes it. That's too funny. That is awesome. That is cool. So, yeah, but it's really, I think this is going to be an interesting tournament finale. I like it. I know a lot of people don't like it. I noticed that Seth Greenberg they had a story. It just popped up a second ago because I got ESPN on because I'm trying to check some things that they've got there, and I guess he's commenting that one year it's okay to have it, but it's not good if they keep going. If they keep having tournaments like this, where the low seeds advance and the big seeds don't. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's kind of hard to say. So I definitely love all the chaos, and I love the chaos and the upheaval. I think to me, where I get a little concerned is, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I'll scroll back a bit just to say I don't know if either of San Diego State or Florida Atlantic are particularly good teams. I mean, I didn't pick either of them to win a game. I know you picked Florida Atlantic to at least go one to the second round, but I mean they've won 4 games and they've played some tough opponents. So it's not that I'm not discounting that. At the same time, I don't know if they're going to be particularly fun to watch. Now, on the other hand, Miami and Connecticut, both high teams that are coming into this hot. Even if that Texas game was close, they're still scoring plenty. I like it when smaller teams win. I think it's always more fun to have that than if you had 3 1 seeds and a 2 seed. And this is just for this particular tournament, and I'd love to be proved wrong. I don't know if the first side of this matchup is going to be particularly fun. I personally, I feel like whoever wins this matchup we're looking at right now, they're going to win it all. Could be wrong, but I think they'll both of these teams could beat both the other teams.
Very good point. Very good point. We've got 7 people watching us now, so thank you all. Make sure you follow us on the Twitch side and hit the like button on the YouTube side and subscribe if you haven't. And Phantom Outsider makes a point here about the ranking system might need to be some tweaking. LOL. But really, it seemed like this year, the teams that were 1 through 3 were actually the better teams and the better records this year. That the committee may have seeded the top 3 teams very well. What I think that this really goes towards is the heart of what makes college basketball great. And when it's on fire, it happens like this, that there's so much parity that even the little guys have a chance to win a game. 30 years ago, you would never have seen Maryland, Baltimore County win. You would, now this year, we got another number 1, Fairleigh Dickinson. Hey, and let me say hello to the great Mark D with a C and his Huskies. He's so proud of UConn out there. Hey, Mark D with a C. Good to see you. Glad you could come in a bit. Oh, Brian, yeah. Mark's going to haunt you if you jinx it for UConn. So, oh, yes, there you go. Yep, he would be. But back to what Phantom Outsider said with it, go from that. What do you think with the seeding? Did you think the committee did a good job with the seeding? What do you think about the parity? I mean, the fact, because to me, this is what makes college basketball better than college football. And that in football, what's going to happen. Like the year Cincinnati made the top 4 for the playoff, they got slammed by Alabama. It wasn't even a close game. And things like that. And we've seen other games like this. Finally, Princeton got hammered last week. If you finally run out, but you do have chances in matchups where the little guys can win. We've seen it. A 9 seed has advanced. We've had 8 or 11 seeds advance in brackets before. And to me, that's what makes college basketball great and what it is, because it does give you that madness.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for maybe some of these voters have a little bit of outdated look at stuff, but I wouldn't say a problem for this year. I'm just saying you've seen a lot more upsets lately, and I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of these voters, I think, maybe look down on these minor conferences. And we've been seeing, in the last 5 years especially, that a lot of these teams from the minor conferences are a lot better than they get credit for. But overall this year, when we talked about it from the very beginning, that we said, well, who's really the number one team? There was a lot of parity this year. Well, both a lot of parity and just a lot of underperforming. So yet other way, you had a lot of teams who performed a lot better than you expected. So it's kind of, I don't think they did a bad job this year. I think it just speaks to how this year, even more than often, that there's a lot of parity, a lot of stuff where you say, well, this team, we talked about with Houston, well, this team deserves the number one seed, but are they really a number one seed team? Or you had other teams we talked about. I remember with Duke, I think with a fifth seed, we said, well, do they really deserve to be a fifth seed? They won the ACC tournament, but they were pretty mediocre up until then. Just stuff like that, where it was a lot. I don't blame them this year because I think it was just so hard to really tell who belongs where. I think I could say, well, there was one or two bad choices by them, but mostly it's just kind of how it was this year. So much uncertainty.
Need a cooler name. And hey, Bucky Gordon, every time you say UConn, I think of Calvin and Hobbes.
See, this is not UConn like that. It's just the letter U and CONN.
Well, you know what? If you spell it like that, I think of the potato.
Yeah,
potato.
See, that's funny because when you say that, I think of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Yukon Cornelius.
Yep. That's funny. Oh, hey, listen here. Phantom Outsider says, I'm not a basketball fan. Thank you for being here, Phantom Outsider. You're the type of person I love to have here too, because we want to make basketball and sports fun for you guys. But hey, if you got questions about anything, ask. There's no dumb question, but I love the humor here too. But there's some truth there. I'd wager Ultra Boy University probably has an advantage with the myriad of powers they can summon. I mean, do we know there aren't more players on the court invisible? Hey, that's the way to look at it. And it's the U, where it used to be Criminal U years ago. Oh, that was football. But anyway.
Oh, man, that was
yes.
I wasn't around for much of that, but I love watching the 40 for 40 on 30 for 30 on all that stuff. It's crazy.
Oh, the Catholics versus Crooks. I mean, the Notre Dame Miami matchups. Oh, my gosh, they were crazy. So, I mean, Mark D sees old with me, like me. He'd remember those. So, but
have you this is something you'll remember. And I always say, I think it speaks to the power of Tim Tebow. That 2008 Florida team. They had, they had Aaron Hernandez. They had, I think they said like almost 20% of that team ended up in jail.
Yeah, there were some not nice human beings.
No, but they managed to win.
Harvin. I mean, they had all kinds of, and it's like, and when Urban Meyer left, apparently the talk was that he when he got to Ohio State, he recruited against Florida by saying you don't want your kids going there because of the culture and all. And it's like, you caused it.
Hey,
Phantom Outsider says my sport of choice is just starting up end of the week.
Ooh, what starts up? Oh, baseball. That's right. I should have known that. I don't know. I'm angry at a lot of the rule changes, but I'm excited for our team because they just announced that we have the number 4 prospect in all of baseball, and they just announced that he made the opening day roster. So I'm excited to see that.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm debating doing like a sports recap show, a weekly thing coming up. I'm still thinking of details where I'm just not necessarily sports specific, or just kind of like a talk thing where we can cover news of the week and stuff like that. So I might have to incorporate a lot of different things and talk about multiple sports and stuff like that. Just kind of like a talking and looking at things that are breaking. I tell you, I'm having we need to finish up with this because we're an hour and a half, but a lot of the baseball I can't stand. I've told you about how I hate the way they've taken the tradition and stuff, and now that they've pimped it out with the ads everywhere, it's just breaks my heart looking at a baseball field now. I just can't. I have a hard time. And now with the pitch count or the clock count and assigning strikes to batters, and you've shown several where the pitcher's not even ready and the batter's getting punished.
No, that's the most frustrating thing to me because it's just it's part of the rule. And that one guy who keeps posting them, he's like, oh, these batters really need to adjust. It's like, well, he's ready. Like the whole spirit of the rule, which I can understand to an extent, is hey, we want to speed up the game a bit because there's so many people going, there's so many people who, they every at bat they go to come out, adjust their gloves and whatnot, or the pitcher every time he throws a pitch he's got to walk around the mound, grab the rosin bag. It's like, okay, come on. You're just being ridiculous. But so many of these strikes, it's not people messing around. It's these batters they're standing in the box, but they're waiting because the pitcher's not even ready. And they get a strike like that one you saw earlier today. It was like if the pitcher threw a pitch, then it would have been a ball. Yep. So it's like, why is the batter getting penalized? He's not doing anything wrong. It's not him slowing down the game. It's the pitcher. If you're going to punish someone for that, don't punish the batter. He didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly. Well, our friend Bucky Corn now talking to us about Woopah again.
It's
Sport is Woopah. Woopah. Sport is Woopah, not to be confused with Woopah, which is very similar to baseball, but everyone has a bat and are encouraged to use them.
Yes, Woopah, you use a bat, but when you hit the ball, you don't have to drop the bat.
There you go. I know. Take it out as you round the bases. I agree. Kind of like, did you ever see the movie Problem Child?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! We might have to watch Problem Child one time. I'm not going to ruin it for you. We might have to get on and do a stream and just watch a movie. But that thing of running with the bat reminds me of a scene in that movie. It was hilarious. So, but on that note, we'll get back to because Brian's like now bringing back out the Fortnite unicorn named the ESPN soundbite should be the opening thing. Oh, there's a party in my hoof. Anyway, all right. But Phantom Outsider is the pitch clock is odd. Do you really want someone having to throw at you 90 plus if he's not ready? LOL. Yeah, that's why I say because if he rushes it, he could be out of control. He could hit you, whatever else. But that's why I say, to me, and people may disagree, and that's fine. Baseball, you just take your time with these games. If they want to shorten the games, and if they are concerned that it takes too long, my thing is don't affect the play of the game. Just call it after 5 innings, 6 innings. If you're so worried about length of time and all this other stuff, no pitchers pitch 9 innings anymore. We've lost a lot of the tradition out of baseball, which made it great. I looked at Bob Gibson's numbers. Oh my God, and Nolan Ryan, complete games and stuff. You didn't have to have 14 fit people in the bullpen to finish a game, because these guys were workhorses. They were conditioned and they could throw the ball. I'm sorry.
Well, that was so much to that.
Yes. That's Phantom Outsider. He got it. He got it. I'll have to show you that scene when we're off. Just that one scene. Oh my gosh. Phantom Outsider. I love. That's exactly what I was thinking about Woopah. But go ahead, Woopah. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're
Well, Brian talks about this. Hey, now and listen, folks, I don't mind. Woopah, do you mind talking a little baseball? I know we're here for Final Four, but if this is what y'all want to talk about, we'll talk about it a bit. It's on both sides. You have pitchers waving, stepping off the rubber, walking around the mound with batters step out of the box, and adjust their gloves all that multiple times per pitch. I agree. I agree. It's both sides.
It's definitely both sides, and both of them get really annoying. I just think what you're looking at. I think what you're looking at in preseason, it's these batters will be, they take a pitch, they just, they maybe step out for a bit, but they're ready. And so many of these times you see the pitch clock and they just have, they have 1 foot in the batter's box. And they're just waiting because the pitcher's taking a lap around the mound, or he's going to grab the rosin bag, or he's just composing himself. So he's ready, and then once the pitcher gets in position, then the batter steps into the box and gets ready, and then they're like, "Oh, you took too long." It's like, well, what? Why make the batter be ready when the pitcher is, ready is obviously a subjective term, but the pitcher will be in a position where it's like if he threw a pitch there, they'd call it an illegal. They'd call it a balk. He'd get a first. He'd get a base. Why have the batter be ready when the pitcher is in a position where he can't even throw a legal pitch?
Absolutely. It's. See, I'm just a traditionalist with the play of the game. To me, baseball is beautiful, slow. It's just the way it is. It's that's just the way I got it. I mean, that's the way I grew up. I mean, you took your time, and it was part of the game. You just enjoyed being in the ballpark. Heck, if you were there in person, you just go buy another hot dog or something and things like that. So, but it does both sides, and you got to do it fairly. Mark says the batter shouldn't be allowed to leave the box and walk around after every pitch. But I tell you what, as a batter, and I don't know. See, I don't know how many people played or what, but you always like to reset after the pitch comes. And you do need to be able to step out or at least pull a foot out and back in, but you're always afraid that the umpire's not going to stop the pitcher from throwing if you're in that box. So, and that's, I think, a concern. That's why sometimes the batters step clearly out to make sure that, to try to, before early enough so that the umpire doesn't allow the pitch. But, that's just one of the things. I love this. One of the most interesting Bob Gibson stories was Willie Mays digs in, looks up, sees Bob Gibson on the mound, calls time to fills up, dig in. Gibson throws at him. Yep.
One of my favorite things is...
And he continued when asked why, Gibson said he should have known who was pitching. He knew basically Gibson considered digging in an insult to him.
So, one of my favorite things was... sadly, Bob Gibson had a rough end. Not really. He had a great career. He's a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever play. But his last inning he ever did, someone scored on a wild pitch, and he allowed a 3-run homer. So fun. He pitched to I forget who it is, but he pitched to him. He hit a home run. And this was against the Cubs. 10 years later, Bob Gibson was playing in an alumni game. So he was retired, and he was playing, and the batter came up who hit that home run on him for his last run scored. And 10 years later, they're both retired, and Bob Gibson throws at him, hits him.
Wow.
It's just
it was old days. Yeah. Hey, it's a code.
Yeah, there's a code, and it's also just a lot of these guys held grudges. And, I understand grudges maybe not the most healthy, but I think you look at baseball and you look at basketball especially, the world was a lot more the world was a lot more fun when sports, you had some real hate behind them. I know maybe that's mean to say, but it's just like, basketball, you had these guys that are like, I hate these guys. You had hockey. Look at that Colorado-Detroit rivalry in the 80s. That was wild.
In the 70s NFL, when I've had clobbering times on before talking about the 70s NFL. I mean, these guys didn't go hug each other and all this stuff like after game. They hated each other. There was a rivalry. I mean, it was personal, and it was a completely different era.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing NFL, I know that it doesn't have that to the same extent, but they've had some things. You remember that Odell Beckham Jr. and Josh Norman fight? Yeah. Like, that whole game was just fighting. I enjoyed seeing that. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. Or you had when Terrell Owens was being himself. He was, especially when he was playing Dallas, for the Eagles. They hated him. And they tried to hit him as hard as possible.
They did. Well, Brian Hepburn says the only change in the box I want is the batter swings around, let go of the bat with the lead hand against the catcher in the top back of the head helmet. It should be an automatic out. And he's seen that too much lately.
You know what?
But the problem is the batter is entitled to every inch of that box, and if the catcher gets too far up in there, you can't help but it happening. I mean, the catcher's going to have to stay back a little bit, but they position themselves a little forward to kind of get the ball, where it breaks, so it looks like a strike at times. So, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I think they should do is I need to hold umpires accountable. And I know that this happens with a lot of leagues, but there's, the NBA had this problem. I mean, it was less an ego problem, more, they had the whole game fixing issue. Like NFL and NHL, they've got some, you can question the quality of some, but it's not that bad. The MLB has some umpires who are just definitively bad at their, not just definitively bad at their job, but, they kind of go on power trips. This happened today. A catcher reached behind him, catcher's saying, "Hey, umpire, give me the ball, give me a ball." And then he was waiting. I don't know exactly what happened, but he decided to stop and he put his hand down. So the umpire took, he was already in the motion of giving him a ball, and he took his glove away, not knowing the catcher's not watching. He's just holding it behind his head. And the umpire throws it on the ground and he just ejects him. You're like, what are you doing? Hey, it's total. It doesn't make any sense. It's an ego move. I don't know. He was just mad. So he decided to eject him. And, it's spring training right now. It doesn't matter too much, but things like that. There was a big problem recently. Cardinals manager and an umpire, C.B. Buckner, kind of got into a fight in the regular season, not an actual fight, but a very heated verbal argument that, if you can believe the lip reading are things that they do, it kind of went pretty far. You're like, wow, bringing up that's pretty rough. So Ole Marmol our manager went up to shake his hand in the spring training, basically, say, hey, clean slate, new season. And the umpire refused to shake his hand, and it made a lot of noise. And it's stuff like that where it's, it's one thing you're talking about getting calls wrong. That's one thing. But you're talking about these umpires who, there are some umpires that are just statistically bad at their job. They have some tracking, but it's just these umpires, they've got egos. And it's like, no one paid to come see you throw people out or, make bad calls. And then you wonder, they're saying for these games, you're wondering, well, that guy doesn't like this manager. Is he going to make purposely bad calls because he doesn't like him? We won't know for sure, but that's going to be in fans' minds. And I wish that the MLB took that, they held the umpires accountable. The union really won't let them, but it's like, that's a big problem. I think you've got this umpires, I just don't know.
All right. Well, we'll wrap the baseball up here. We'll get to conclude so we can wrap up. But hey, Brian says it's not interference at the plate. Swing all the way around the body behind them. Yeah, I understand their interference is on the forward swing, but I think these guys swing so hard, it's hard to judge. It's one more thing an official has to judge. I mean, if you did it automatically, there's been so many times with a bat, your front hand comes off if you're swinging really hard, and you don't necessarily intend for it to be that way. So, and hey, we got Theme Park Casual coming in and say, hey, kids. Theme Park Casual. Right after we were talking about Woopah running the bases and taking the bats with you, like Problem Child, if you saw the movie. Thank you, sir. Always leave a like, and everybody hit that like button too, and subscribe if you haven't. So good to see you. Hope you're doing well tonight. And Phantom Outsider here says, between the lines, Munson and Carlton Fisk hate his fist once picked up a dribbler. Munson hit and ran after Munson tagged him out. After the games, they would drink together, though. Yeah, you had it, but when it was on the field, they were, when they were playing, it was, oh God, yeah. When the games happened, they were no love lost. So, but
yeah. He is the
You know, I
worst.
miss. There are two umpires, and I believe they're both passed that I miss. Eric Gregg and Cowboy Joe West.
Oh, who missed Joe West?
I do from Naked Gun. You can't throw an umpire in the game. Anyway, but hey,
He was. I don't think he's dead. I think he just retired. But gosh, he was awful. I hated that guy.
yeah.
Because he would do stuff and then he'd just have a smug look on his face and you're just like, you son of a gun.
Nettles, Greg Nettles, Spaceman Lee. I don't remember that name. The Nettles versus Spaceman Lee. If that's Greg Nettles, I remember Greg Nettles, but hey, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and we'll move on back to basketball. Yeah, we had a nice little. I guess I might have to pull up baseball now. Hey, that's okay. I know I got a lot of people. Expect y'all here every time if we do baseball. But hey, our final four predictions. We've got in one matchup we have San Diego State Aztecs coming in playing the Florida Atlantic Owls. We talked about the pluses and minuses both teams. Really to recap, I think San Diego State's very physical. FAU is more physical than I thought that they would be coming from the conference. The Conference USA. I still, I still don't trust the. Here we go. All right. Greg Nettles picked up Spaceman Lee and upended him on the mound and broke his collarbone. Oh, wow. I remember Greg Nettles, but who is Spaceman Lee? What was that player's name? I don't remember. I mean, it may be Spaceman Lee, but it's one incident I had never heard of. So, but yeah.
I remember Nolan Ryan. Don't pick a fight with him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some young guy came after him. He stood right up against him. So, so basically with San Diego State, this is going to be a game of who's physical. I really want to take FAU in this. Pitcher for the Red Sox. Okay. Gotcha. I'll have to look up the name. It doesn't ring a bell, but thank you for the clarification. And I'm going to take FAU on this one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I clicked once you said that. I'm like, oh yeah.
But I do this waringly though, because to me, so many times a team like this, it's been a Cinderella and a darling. When they get to the Final Four, like George Mason, when you're against the Gators, they're outclassed. But being San Diego State, if they were going against Alabama, there's no question. If they were going against a 2 or 3 seed, I'd say no doubt about it. So
I think that's what it comes down to for me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
I picked FAU as well, and I think it's just if it was Alabama, I'd pick them, no question. I'd say even if it was Creighton, I'd pick Creighton.
Yeah.
But San Diego State, I don't know. I kind of just went with the fact that FAU seems to be almost a team of destiny right now.
Yep.
I didn't know what else to go for. But I never trusted San Diego State from the start. I still don't trust them. So I'm, not that I particularly trust FAU, but I just feel like they're the better choice here.
All right, Mark. Let's see. Okay. Oh, is that the event? Okay. Thanks, Mark. Go check that out. I think that's Mark. I guess that's the event that Phantom Outsider was talking about then. All right. Well, that's cool. So we now have one team in the final national championship game. So we agree. All right. I will say it's a cool owl mascot, though, as the mascots go. All right. So we have the U, another Florida time. Hey, you got support, dude.
Thank you, Squeaka.
Super Woopah. Hey. And she'll root for the teams you tell her. So, hey, there you go. Great to have you with us, Squeaka.
Thank you, Squeaka.
Oh, So we never trusted San Diego Klingons. You never will. LOL. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and then Lee gets destroyed after telling us to f off. Oh, okay. I'll have to watch that a little bit later. I'll see that. That's awesome. Thanks for putting that in there. Learned about that. Yes, and thank you coming in, Squeaka, at the end. And hey, we're about to wrap up the next few minutes, but hey, we ended up having baseball bonus coverage tonight. Woopah, little preseason baseball to go with some basketball.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Woopah, the question now becomes, do we have a Battle of Florida?
That's the question.
I am struggling. I struggle with this game, like I said earlier. UConn has blown everybody away. They're on fire. They look like a team of destiny. They're hot. Miami has been workmanlike, very good offensively. Not much from 3-point line, but they've been solid. They've been steady. They've taken out a 1, 2, and a 4 seed as being a 5 seed. That's a hard road to go. So there's something to say with that resume. So go ahead and let's see what I pick. Let's see if I'm going to go with the Battle of Florida. No. I'm going with UConn against every fiber of my body. God, I hate UConn. I hate UConn. I've always hated UConn. I love you, Mark, but UConn has always been one of those Yankee teams that's just gotten me. But I just think that I think at this time of year, give Miami a lot of credit. They came through the ACC, big conference, people against them. I mean, who would have expected they would be the ones standing out of the ACC at this point? And UConn, there's every reason to pick Miami because they're 80-plus points, the teams that they've beaten. But this time of year, give me the team that's on fire. Give me the team that's playing good basketball, no matter who they play. And I think UConn's just on a roll, and I would pick UConn over Miami. I would not be surprised to see the other, but hey. So
yeah, and I think this might be a little bit less exciting as other predictions we've done, but because I picked the same one as you.
Yeah.
I've been, I predicted UConn to go into the Final Four from the start. Actually,
you have.
Even in my normal bracket, everyone else not close. I really screwed up there. Actually, I picked Miami going to the Sweet 16 at the very least. I think the Elite Eight, but no, I didn't. Never mind.
But you had UConn. I remember you had UConn.
I thought they were going to go far. They were a team that I was high on. I'll tell you. The only year I've ever won a bracket challenge was the year I picked that 7th seed UConn or 6th seed UConn to win it all. That was a good year. I've always just trust them a lot, and this year they remind me of my 2021 Baylor Bears. They whipped up on everyone. Their closest win was they won by 9, and it was a good matchup, but everyone else besides that game, they were just trouncing them. There was no competition to anyone they beat, even in the national championship. Supposed number 1 seed Gonzaga, they whipped them by 18 points. So UConn's been like that so far. They've been beating everyone they can. They're just rolling over everyone. It's hard for me to bet against that, even with Miami playing pretty well and taking out a lot of good competition. I think it'll be a fun game, but I think UConn has it.
Yeah. Mark says good choice for both of us. Let me see here. We got this. Bucky Corn, Dadman, and the Timmy's dad voice, shaking fist. UConn! Yeah, that's kind of...
Dinkelberg.
Oh, gosh. I love the Fairly Odd Parents. What a show. That's another stream we could do about classic cartoon shows like that. My kids grew up on some great ones, and
yeah,
and I watched them as much, if not more, than they did. Yeah.
Oh, Fairly Odd Parents was one of the good ones. I feel like they've had some good ones before, because I ended up watching a lot of old Hanna-Barbera cartoons that are really good.
Yeah.
We were talking about this later. I loved Wacky Races, which was fun. Yeah. But yeah, Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon had some really good shows in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, the Cartoon Network was good. I got to watch some stuff with my kids over time and some of the other anime shows. So, Uh, Brian Hepburn says coin toss. Miami having a grind can go in their favor if they can keep it close. I agree. That's the part that I struggle with, is that they
Well,
could actually really, it could go their way.
I think it's going to be close, and this is why I kind of wish we could swap San Diego and Miami here, because then you could get the Battle of Miami in the one Final Four matchup, but then UConn, San Diego State, and the other. I feel like the high likelihood is if you put these four, if you put them in like a round robin kind of format, I think that you get UConn and Miami as the top two teams. So I think this will be, maybe I'm jinxing it. Maybe I'm too overconfident, but I feel like this, that Final Four matchup is going to be the kind of de facto national championship, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's I would like to see the Battle of Miami, because Boca Raton is really just not. It's just a stone throw from Miami down there. It's really almost just there. That's why it'd be cool to have Miami and FAU play in a national championship game. But it's I just, like I said, I don't like UConn. I don't want to pick them, but it's a hot team this time of year, I think, goes further than that grind sometimes can work against you too, by being battling and having to fight every round. Sometimes, at the end of the year, at nearly 40 basketball games. Don't forget, folks, Miami is coming into this game at 29-7. That's 36 games they played. College basketball used to barely get to 30 games with conference tournaments and NCAA tournaments. So there's a lot more basketball these kids are playing these days. And sometimes that grind can take a toll on your body and work against you. So, and that's kind of one of the things I'm thinking with this game. It's tempting to go with the grind, but I think the team that's hot. But then again, how many times I've gone hot and then go colds, quickly. And competition, though. How much of, as like I said earlier, how much of UConn's getting hot has been playing against inferior competition, and that's really the thing that it comes down to. So, but
yeah, interesting thing too. This is just a random aside. No matter what happens in this Final Four, FAU is going to end the season with the most wins of any basketball team in D1 this year. So they've got enough, I guess. I think they have 35, and everyone else, you can only win 2 more games from this point. Even if FAU loses this, loses in the Final Four, they'll still have more wins than anyone else.
Wow, I know, just staggering the number of basketball games they play nowadays. So
yeah,
well,
and especially also, if you make a deep run in the conference tournament and then a deep run in the March Madness, it'll.
Yep. And Brian says everybody beats Gonzaga near the end. These days they do. They were.
That's why I never trust in Gonzaga. They have been good in like 20 years, basically.
Well, coach has still got a job there, so he's riding that to the bank, and they still have a good reputation. But UCLA, I was surprised how easily UCLA dispatched them, though. But
No, UCLA. You mean UConn dispatched?
UConn. Gosh,
it looked like UCLA was going to easily dispatch them.
Yeah. It's like, but then they beat UCLA. They beat UCLA, then UConn just wipes them off the court. Yeah, and it's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy because I thought UCLA was going to win that, and I thought UCLA was a pretty good team. I picked UConn over them because I thought UConn was going to win, but I don't know. That was crazy.
All right. Well, that's what we have. We got a Final Four, San Diego State, FAU, both Woopah, and I take FAU over San Diego State. The U versus UConn, and we both take UConn to win, which will set up a Florida Atlantic UConn national championship game that I don't think anybody in hell could have believed. This would have been one to go to if you were in Vegas. I don't endorse gambling. We don't do gambling, but if you did and you went to Vegas, then you'd probably come back rich if you predicted this. But hey,
that's why I don't predict. Yeah. If you predicted this, you're probably going to be calling your boss pretty soon, putting in your 2 weeks. You might not even put in your 2 weeks. You just say, hey,
just go,
see you guys.
Leave. Oh, well. Anyway, do you have anything else? Or we Because what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to come back next Monday night. What is the time slated for the game next week?
Here, I can look it up.
Yeah, because we're looking forward to next week. Game it will be on Monday. We got. I keep hitting the wrong date. Don't you hate when you do that? It's scheduled for 9:20. Dang. 9:20 on CBS. I thought they moved that to TBS, but anyway, 9:20 Eastern. So guess what, folks? We're going to come back next Monday night, and we're going to tear down the matchup between these two teams, and have a little more, right, Woopah?
Yep, we're gonna break it down. Just go over conference championship. Maybe do a little bit more in-depth recap, and also do a real in-depth preview, and then give our predictions. Hopefully, have a nice show.
Absolutely. So we had a great show tonight. Thank you, everybody that's come in and through the chat and everything else. And I appreciate y'all for being here. Make sure you hit the like button and everything before you leave. I'm about to forget to do a few things. So let me slow down and do some channel announcements and things real quick. But Woopah, thank you again for doing this. I love college basketball. I'm glad you're willing to come on with me and share some time and just talk some basketball.
Yeah, it was fun being on. I always love talking sports and stuff. So.
All righty. So, folks, follow us on the Twitch side, subscribe on the YouTube side, get your friends, dogs, cats now, because we were at 188 on the YouTube side. So 12 more. I really couldn't believe that. When I looked up the other day, it's just, I'm really touched and honored that that you guys hang out with me and listen to me ramble, and it's just fun with friends, and hopefully we can have some fun with this stuff. And like I said earlier, even if you're not into certain sports, come join us and have some fun with us. We'll try to make you learn a new game. We can do some new things together, answer your questions, laugh together. Like tonight, we do this is a basketball show, focus on NCAAs, but you know what? We took a right turn to talk about baseball. That's fine. That's what we're here for. To have fun with friends and to do stuff like that. Take some turns if we need to. It's all good, folks. So with that note, some other things. And Phantom Outsider comes in at the beginning of the tournament. FAU was 600-1. Wow.
It'd be a pretty nice payday.
Now, if I had theoretically, I don't endorse gambling. We're not a gambling site. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. By the way, I forgot to put this up tonight again. Dang it. I sure as heck keep forgetting to do things. I can't do this without the missus. When the missus is not here, it's crazy. Yeah, Mark, we threw the curve with the baseball. Well, that's what Dadman brings. Dadman is multifaceted, adapting with the change, and keeps things light and keeps things moving. So, hey, we do different things and keep you on your toes. So I don't know, maybe there'll be something for baseball or general sports coming down the road, especially I know a lot of people like hockey, a lot of people like talk baseball. So you don't know, but hey, we'll talk about that later. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. We've been 2 hours. We thought this was going to be a shorter stream tonight, Woopah.
Yeah.
Well, because the XFL game is already into the second half, and
it's gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
The DC is taking a commanding lead, which I don't like to see.
No, but you see the uniforms, though. You see those horrible Houston helmets. So, but
maybe it's the helmets. It's
the helmets. But folks, listen. Tomorrow night or Thursday, there may or may not be different streams or gaming streams. So, this week's kind of up in the air with different things going on. It's kind of a week of rest and relaxation, catching up on some stuff. Can go late, can do streams at a moment's notice. But in terms of the planned streams, please make plans to join us on Wednesday night. Let me see here. I will bring it up. Mrs. Dadman Walking will be back with me tomorrow on Wednesday night. Uh, March 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to do another detour with the Dadmans. We are going to talk about our visit to this fort, Fort Pickens, that's located in Pensacola Bay. There's a lot of history, a lot of uniqueness to this fort. Uh, we visited over the Labor Day weekend back last September. Uh, a lot is to see, and its history of it stretches back even before and after the Civil War. So there's a lot to see, some unique things, some things that I learned on this trip. You know, we just think that forts just had a useful shelf life to about, First World War maybe, but there's a lot more of a shelf life into a lot of these forts and things that are there. So join us for that. Join the missus and me for this, and we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll throw a camping picture in there too. Who knows what? But there's plenty to see from Fort Pickens. That was a great and wonderful weekend that we all had there together. And, and yes, there was one day I left the missus to deal with her family to go by myself so I could do the Dadman Walking every inch of whatever I wanted to do. Because, listen, take your in-laws to the Battleship Alabama and they want to go for an hour and leave. It's because they're hungry. It's like, the hell with hunger. You got so much of the battleship shipped to stern to look at,
I know this is a little bit different, but this is me with a lot of theme parks. I don't go with a lot of certain family members because when I go to the theme park, it's like, hey, I'm going to go to the right, going to hit up all these ones I like, and then we're going to go, you pick a path and you hit all the ones that you want to do on there. And then you get to the end. They were like, oh, I want to go to this one ride. So they go to this right side of the park. Oh, now I want to go to this ride. So they go all the way across the park. Yep. It's like, no, this is not how you do it. And then, you end the day, you only rode like 5 rides. You just kept going back and forth.
I know.
Separate sides. Like, come on, there's a lot of stuff to do. I'm trying to maximize my fun here.
The missus and I had that many years ago with her family at Disney many, many years ago. And it was like, they wouldn't listen to me about the Fast Pass, which I will be on again next Sunday night on Lorena Creel's show at 8 p.m. We'll have one more time for a while that we'll talk about the history of the Fast Pass. Well, my in-laws wouldn't listen to me, and we spent so much time walking around. It was crazy. So I got you with that. Bucky says, hunger is for the weak, pack a granola bar. Brian Hepburn, the line of the night. Are the food choices at Fort Pickens slim? And yeah, you got to be methodical. So join us Wednesday night for this. I'm really looking forward to this. This has some great memories. It's a great weekend. This really is a special fort. Had a lot of history with it. So join us for that. And then also on Friday night, I skipped something. Nope. Okay. Well,
Here,
it did not like that song. It skipped.
Here, hold on a second.
Yeah. It skipped on me. I think it's because it's in a different format. It didn't do it in a slideshow. So I got it here, Woopah. I got it here.
Oh, I pulled it up.
Okay. Let's see. I'll get back to the StreamYard side. There we go. Oh, we both did it. But yes, here. There you go. Join us Friday night as we talk XFL. We're going to not... With 2 minutes in the third quarter, yeah, it's a one-sided game. I don't know that we're going to have a good game to talk about this week after that stunning San Antonio whatever game. I can't even remember.
It'll be fun to talk about. First of all, I think I'm going to add something new to the stream.
All right.
I would say, well, I'll have to double check this game. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but it looks like DC's putting on a show. It's not a what is it? There's differences between, DC seems to be playing very good football. So that's props to them. And there's another game like that, a blowout, but was, one team actually played good football. And then there was one pretty close game that was a little surprising. That'll be fun to talk about. And then there's one more game was awful. And it's so awful. We're going to go in depth about how awful it was. So that'll be fun. I think it'll be
All right. Well,
one of our most
Woopah,
fun streams.
it'll be glorious 4-hour stream with Woopah talking about how bad it was. So, yes.
Probably
Sometimes
not
you
that
can't help
long,
it.
but
Sometimes things are so bad you have to talk about it.
well,
But
there's
yeah, I
there's
got you, buddy.
bad there's bad plays and there's bad in my opinion, bad coaching. It's just like, what are you guys doing here?
No,
It's kind of like a train wreck. You can't look away.
I just noticed with these coaches, Wade Phillips is on the sideline for Houston, but also Reggie Barlow's on the sideline for Washington, and he was a former Jaguars wide receiver years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting to see that. So, all right. Well, Friday night, join us at 7 p.m. We'll have fun with that. And listen, go get all your Dadman viewing needs. I like phrasing it like that. I don't know. It sounds kind of creepy, I guess. But hey, it's an addiction. You got to have the Dadman stuff, especially the Fortnite blowing up gas stations. But folks, like and subscribe to the channel. I like the videos here on YouTube at Dadman Walking 55. Twitch, we're also Dadman Walking 55. If you have both, follow us on one and subscribe on the other. We're at 188 on the YouTube and 77 on the Twitch side. But the way to keep up with when I go live and what I do unplanned or these scheduled shows, check out my Twitter page at Dadman Walking 55. That's the best place to get most up-to-date information and what's going on. So, Woopah, thank you again, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look forward to Friday and look forward to Wednesday as well.
All right, I want to see if I can try to do this once. Thank you to Mark, D with a C, Bucky Corn, Brian Hepburn, Phantom Outsider. You were just you were great tonight, Phantom. Loved having you here too, as everybody. Brian Hepburn. Let's see, Squeaka came through. And Theme Park Casual came by to say hi and drop a like. And I think that's most who we had tonight. I'm just checking to see if there's anybody up front. But I think B from O came through. Thank you if you're still here lurking. Studying a Brave Megatron. Obviously, Castle.
Squeaka Mouse, thank you for supporting my picks.
Absolutely. And Jeremy 5 Russia approved came through too. Input latency even got here before the stream even started.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so thank you all. And yeah. All righty. Oh wow, B from O, glad you're still here. Yep, glad you were lurking. So hey, everybody, thank you for your support. Thank you all for another great night. Like I said, I may do something tomorrow night. If I don't do it, I'll do it. Input was here before anybody got here, Bucky Corn. But so Tuesdays and Thursdays this week may be a little bit different. But we'll see. But Wednesday night, definitely join me for Mrs. Dadman and the Detour. It's going to be wonderful. And Friday night for XFL football. With that, my friends, y'all have a wonderful night. Thank you for being here. We love you all. Thank you for your support. It means so much to me. And thank you for engaging with chat. And, I love that curveball with the baseball tonight, guys. Thank you so much. And let's just have fun together as friends, guys. Well, to that note, have a good night. Bye.
Bye.